Hi guys, welcome back. First of all, let me apologize for the slow release of reviews as of lately. I've just had a lot on my plate to sort out. But anyway, the important thing is that hopefully things will return to some sort of normal schedule from now on. And so this time around, I'm bringing you the JUZEAR 61T, which I've had for a while now, the Butterfly 61T, and I'm also bringing you something which not many people I think have heard about, which is the PaiAudio PDM 7. Both of them have the peculiar fact that they are 1+6s, and basically the comparison that I will be doing with the other IEMs that are here are also some of them 1+6s. I've got here the CBJ Bidong, I've got the Relentless, which is also 1+6. I've got the venerable Manga T2 1+6, and then I've got here two outliers which kind of fall into the same price bracket as these two IEMs, and at least one of them has gathered some momentum and has become somewhat of a hype IEM, which is the Super Mix 4, and the other one is the IVipQ NS10. That's a 4-driver, let's say quadrid, and that's a 10-driver 2+8, and that's basically it. Anyway, either one of these IEMs have got simple packaging, more so the PaiAudio simple box. It brings, let me just quickly show you, not that it's anything too special, but oops, my apologies, this thing doesn't want to open. Oh my, what is wrong with it? Oh, there we go. I think I've sorted it out. All right, there we go. So no, yes, today sometime would be nice. Oh my, talk about, okay, there we go. So simple enough box. IEMs came obviously over there, as you can see. Brings the carrying pouch, brings some tips. I'm not going to say that I was overly impressed with the tips that it brings, especially because I found that the liqueur tips from PENON were actually the best choice for it. But fine, the tips that it brings, I guess, worked. Here's some more. But it's not, I think the tips perhaps could have been a little bit better, a little bit better, selected. Also, the fact that it's a $269 IEM, I expect, and especially with such a big box, I was expecting a proper carrying case, not a little pouch. But anyway, that's just my opinion. It's not like I'm overly disappointed. It's just that when you compare price point with other IEMs, and some of them actually are cheaper, it's normal to expect certain things. Okay, so anyway, that's the box for the PaiAudio. This is the box for the JUZEAR. Again, simple packaging, nothing over the top, but they do bring a more adequate selection of tips. They do bring a cleaning cloth. They obviously do bring the case, as you can see there, and they bring a nice cable. I mean, it's a nicer cable than the PDM 7. It's, I don't know, I guess somehow JUZEAR has been able to find some formula there to give us some really nice cables. Okay, but again, it's not a overly fantastic packaging, but it is better than the packaging of the PDM 7, especially because this costs around $215 roughly, give or take, and that there is another $50 on top. Obviously, the PDM 7 is a product that at least I got this one from PENON. The JUZEAR, the 61T, I got this one from HIFIGO. Anyway, then I'll talk about both of them when time comes, but I'll start here with the PDM 7. Nice resin shell. I mean, nothing to be said there. It's a nice resin shell. It's got a nice design on the actual faceplate itself. Looks smart. Looks the part. Looks nice. In terms of the configuration internally, excuse me, as I mentioned, it's a 1+6. It's got 4 BAs for the mids, two BAs for the highs. The 10mm driver is apparently a CNT diaphragm driver, 32 ohm impedance, and I mean, in terms of the hardware, it seems to tick all the right boxes. Vent hole there, okay, fits nicely. As I said, the liqueur tips for me are the ideal match, in my opinion, and it's actually something that I would recommend that either you get them, or then maybe PaiAudio is able to include these tips, because these tips really balanced out the whole sound in at least for my ears and for my music, in a much more adequate manner. Okay. As for the JUZEAR, as I said, the cable is a really nice cable. I mean, there's nothing to be said there. And the IM itself, about the same size as the PaiAudio in terms of thickness, although it's got a smaller faceplate. Again, a 1+6. Although they've used a slightly different configuration, they've actually got, it's also a 10mm dynamic driver, or what they call a CCP diaphragm, which seems to be also some sort of carbon diaphragm, or carbon layering on the actual dynamic driver. And then it's got 4 BAs for the high frequencies and 2 BAs for the mids. So they've emphasized on more number of BAs on the high frequency, less on the mids, and while on the PaiAudio it's the other way around. The interesting thing then is actually that you would think that this, by having more BAs in the highs, could perhaps be a little bit brighter, or a little bit more shouty, something of the sort, and that by the same, let's say, kind of pattern of thought, the PaiAudio, by having 4 BAs focusing on the mids, it would be somewhat more emphasized on the mids. And it's actually interesting, because that's not what happens. On the PaiAudio, we get a more V-type signature, where there is definitely a noticeable kind of, I wouldn't say recession is a bit of a strong word, but a sort of a laid back presentation of the mids as compared to the bass and the highs. While on the JUZEAR, the 61T, what you get is that more let's say kind of harmony style of performance. We have the normal pin gain, a sub bass focus with the normal pin gain, and then slowly dropping off as it extends upwards. Well, when I show you the graphs in a couple of minutes, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So the PDM 7 will give you, like I said, perhaps a more colored presentation, with that emphasis on the bass and on the highs, as I mentioned before, being more noticeable. While here we get a more harmony style presentation, with very balanced out overall. I've read some reviews of some fellow reviewers, and I didn't feel that it was, as some of them pointed out, bright or anything of the sort. No, in my ears, my music, the way I like listening to music, I just found the presentation to be very nicely done. I mean, seriously nicely done. Comparing one and the other, I mean, it's not that one is wrong or one is better, or no, it's just 2 very different approaches. So if anything, I would say that they are tailored for different kind of people. That's the best way of putting it. Okay, anyway, as I said, I forgot just to show you the case of the JUZEAR once again. I selected some IEMs which I thought would make sense for this comparison. The SIM card, the bidong from CVJ, the NS10, the Relentless, and then the Manga T2. I'm not going to start going from left to right. I'm going to start with the ones that I think are the easiest ones to eliminate straight away. The easiest one here to eliminate is the bidong. It's not that the bidong is a bad IM per se. No, it isn't. It plays nicely. But, when you consider that it's got a price tag of $180, give or take, and we have something like the 61T, which is so priced so closely, and in terms of the spatial presentation that it gives, the quality of the mid-range and the highs are so noticeably superior. It just makes no sense. It is, yes, a well-built IEM, like I mentioned, but I think perhaps CVJ jumped the gun here a little bit, and they could have spent a little bit more time really bringing out the best in terms of tuning out of this IM, and maybe the inclusion of some tuning switches could have been a way of making the performance stand out a little bit more. After all, you don't want to create a product just to behave a product. You want to create a product that stands out and that is capable of having some sort of longevity. I mean, if you create a project and 3 months down the line nobody's talking about it and the sales have gone down, then that's not exactly, I would say, good for business. Okay, so in that aspect, I would say that the Bidong doesn't have a chance with the 61T. I'm actually going to do all the comparisons first of the 61T with all of them. The next one is the NS10. Again, the same situation. And mind you, I like the NS10's presentation. It's got a very different presentation. It's got those adjustable tuning nozzles and so on. Again, it's an IM priced at about $160 to $180. It's been around for a while now. There hasn't yet been a substitute for it. I'm guessing that there will eventually be. Nice bass, very much like the bass on the Bidong. And it's not really in the bass where you see the biggest differences here to the 61T. They all have a really nice execution of the bass. I mean, like I said, the 61T has got that emphasis on the sub bass, but it's got a nice amount of mid bass thump. It's clean, it's dynamic, it gets you going, and then the transition into the mids is flawless. Male vocals, female vocals, they've all got the right amount of energy. And the one thing I will say is that these H570 tips really made it come alive. Fully. Not that the stock tips are not adequate. They are. I would say that the stock tips actually work better with the 61T than the stock tips on the PDM7. But the H570 for me on here, the 61T is the ideal tip in my opinion. It just is phenomenal. Another one which came very close as well were the velvet tips. Okay, so the velvet tips and the H570 tips worked really well here. And it's in the mids and in the and the upper mids and the highs where you see that this just absolutely I don't want to, this is a strong word what I'm going to say, but it walks all over those two. It's very closely priced, and they just have no chance. That's it. Okay, compared to the Relentless. The Relentless is slightly, it's about $140 give or take. So it's about a $60, $70 price difference here to the 61T. And again, I think that maybe some of the reviews that have come out on the Relentless haven't been able to do it justice. It is a nice, engaging, more V-styled kind of signature. So not as, let's say, audiophile correct as what you would perhaps put the 61T under. But when you compare, and again, once again, it's not so much in the bass where you see the biggest difference. It's then in the execution of the mids, upper mids, and treble, where once again the 61T it just edges it out completely. Fair enough. The price difference is substantial, and you could say, okay, maybe if you don't have enough money to go for the 61T, you could start off with the Relentless. And yes, I would definitely say that would be a sensible option. And then finally the Manget T2. And these two actually surprisingly sound very similar, although graphically there are some differences. That is even more neutral, more flat as compared to this, but they do sound very similar. And I think it's one of the nice things that I am able to often bring to the table when I do my reviews, which is due to the fact that I've got so many IEMs, not because I wanted to, but because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do the comparisons that that I have to do, and because I don't have the ability of having people loan me IEMs as many others do, and I don't live in parts of the world where it's easily accessible to go and listen to certain IEMs, I had to either I buy them, or then I'm not going to be able to do it. And you know, the fact that I've got so many IEMs enables me to have an advantage over many others when I do some comparisons. And you know, back in the day when the Manga T2 came out, it was criticized because it kind of lost the magic of the original manga, and this and that and blah 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 blah. Very much the same situation happened with the Dark Magician, if you guys recall. The Dark Magician, the original one, was had a nice different kind of tuning that sounded fantastic and created a cult following. And then subsequently, the version 2 of it was a total mess. It lost all of that. But the reality is it wasn't that difficult to actually revert the tuning back to the original one. But anyway, what I'm trying to say by this is the Manga T2 sounds really good. It's in my opinion, it's a better IM than the original manga. It sounds really good. And it's a testament that when things are properly done, inevitably they will pop up in future tunings, because that's the reality. You know, guys, we get caught up with this thing of always looking for the elusive perfect IEM. But if you actually sit down and relax a little bit and you start comparing, you'll find that the similarities between the IEMs and the styles or tunings are way more frequent than what you think. And ultimately, the deciding factor will be very much so price, and will be very much so how much more significantly elegant that execution is done. Although having said that, the reality is, with the price wars that now exist, it is very difficult, very, very difficult for you to see major differences. So, you know, either there's a substantial difference in terms of price that will justify you choosing one IM over the other, because in terms of pure performance, they are very similar. And you know, the Manga T2, when it came out, is $200 plus almost $300. You can now get it significantly cheaper. I've seen it on AliExpress for certain countries. It's not available, at least here for Portugal, but for certain countries you can get it, and it costs something like $219, $220. Amazing, honestly, amazing. It's a really solid IEM still by today's standards. And the fact that the 61T, I'm not saying that they went and fetched inspiration, but the fact that the 61T does sound very similar to that, at least to me and to my ears, is proof that what they did there was properly done. So I would say that, you know, this is kind of a modern day Manga T2, in my opinion. All right. So you got very well executed mids, vocals, female vocals, mids, instruments, the tonality, the timbre, everything just comes across very nicely, in a very nicely executed manner. There's nothing, honestly, that you can say is offensive in the 61T, because it isn't offensive. It's a very well tuned IEM. And then finally, here with the SIMGOT, with the SM4. And again, yeah, the thing is, obviously, it's maybe not exactly the most fair comparison. That's a quadbrid. This is a hybrid. That's 4 different drivers. This is just 2 styles of drivers. Much more complicated execution there, due to the fact that you got different presentations from all the different drivers, especially piezo and planar and so on and so forth. But in terms of overall sound, what you do notice, or what I did notice, was that there is a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more twinklies and sparkles, a little bit more detailed, which can be perceived by some as maybe overly energetic and come across maybe a little bit aggressive. For me, no. And I've always found the SM4 to be shooting way above its price point, In terms of pure performance, I would say they are very close, very, very close. Maybe the 61T will be the safer choice for those that have still their hearing at their full capabilities, just to avoid that that metallic timbre of the piezo and so on. But seriously, very, very solid sounding IEMs, either one of them. Of course, there's the price difference. That's about $140, $150. This is just over $200. There is a big price, jump there. If you have the SM4, does it make sense to get this? No, it doesn't. If you are in the market to buy one or the other, which would be the safer choice? I just answered that a couple of seconds ago. This, I think, would be the safer choice purely because of the way that the upper range is executed by the respective drivers that are executing those frequencies. And I guess that's basically it. So 61T as compared to these IMs, solid, really solid. Especially with these two here, doesn't make sense. The Relentless does have its price going for it, but again, when you have something like the SM4, I would choose the SM4 over the Relentless personally. The T2, if you can get it, if you still want it, if you want to go for a little piece of let's say more vintage hi-fi, definitely yes, solid. But the 61T, ticks all the right boxes for me. On to the PDM7. PDM7, like I said, as opposed to the 61T, where you have a more neutral type of Harman presentation with maybe perhaps that sub-bass frequency being a little bit more emphasized. Over here, you've got a definite V-shape, so loads of bass, well-executed bass nevertheless, and the treble is prominent, but I didn't find it to be offensive. It's intense, it's definitely strong, it colors the sound, but because of the two extremes, and I would say maybe because of that little bit extra amount of treble that it's got, it makes the sound of the PDM7 come across a little bit closed down in the mid frequencies. Obviously that does kind of reduce the genres that it will be more applicable for. And if you are a person that is looking for ultimately openness in the terms of the mid-range and you want the vocals to be the standout feature, no, that's not the IM for you. That's why I said, comparing the two of them is not fair because they've just been tuned in a very different manner. This is overall a more open type of sound. This is more of a V-type signature. This will be more colored. This is more neutral. Comparing then the PDM with what we have here, the PDM for me, although it's $269, okay, compared to the CVJ, it is a better sonically. It is a better IM than the CVJ. It is. I think for it to be truly competitive, I would have liked this to have been priced at about the same value as the 61T. So if this was around $200. It would change the dynamics slightly, but compared to the CVJ, it's a better IM than the CVJ. Even having that slightly more recessed mids, which on the Bidong it's not as it's not as much, but this does come across as a better sounding IM. With the NS7, that already is more capable. You could kind of choose here between the two of them sonically. A little bit more detail up top than the NS10, and vocals there definitely do come across a little bit more open, more clean. The bass on the PDM7 is a little bit more full, a little bit more prominent. Compared to the Relentless, I would say that the Relentless comes out on top. Firstly, because of the price, it's basically half the value, and then sonically, although it's again a V-type signature, it is able to have a more balanced and open presentation than the PDM. Again, let me just repeat this so that people don't get a wrong impression of the PDM. The PDM doesn't have the PDM. It's not that it's got a closed presentation, or but it's very noticeable, that V, because of the big extremes there are between the two ends of the frequency range. And when you see the frequency, the response graph, you'll see what I mean. Compared to the Mangit, it's not a fair comparison, once again, because we have the same situation as with the 61T. They've just been tuned in two totally different manners. This is for a person that will like a more colored sound. That's for a person that will like a more audiophile presentation. And finally, compared to the SM4, we get the same situation as what I just mentioned with the Mangit T2 and with the 61T. The overall balance of the sound is more adequate there than it is on the PDM7. But I will give the PDM7 maybe the slight edge in the bass. Is that edge in the bass due to the fact that the mid sound more recessed and for that reason they stand out slightly, or is it truly having a better bass? Hard to tell. There were certain songs where I was pending towards saying no, okay, the bass is significantly better. Let's say Unconditional from Soul Persona was one of those. House of Groove was one of those. But then I listened to Elephant from Carol Duboc, and I was giving it to the SM4. So the SM4 will come out on top as compared to the PDM7 because of the price and because the sound is more balanced out overall. I mean, it's like I said, this thing shoots way above its price point, and $140, $150. It's kind of half the value of the PDM7, and the PDM7 should therefore have a little bit more to truly stand out, to truly be competitive. Because in terms of the hardware, I don't think it's where the problem is. I think it's just the tuning, and maybe if they had included some tuning switches, they could have kind of balanced things out slightly. Because even when you look at the curve, it's not that it's a badly done curve, but I think if they had maybe included the switches to tone down the bass slightly and tone down the upper mids and the treble slightly to give a more a more neutral presentation, if that was the desire, this then first of all would justify its value better and would be way more competitive. Because the truth is this, we are living in times where the sonic differences are not significant. What ends up being the deciding factor is how elegant that execution is done and what is the value, what is the price. And that's it's as simple as that. Let's not complicate things. It's as simple as that. And that's that, guys. I mean, I think I've positioned things well here. Of the two, if I had to choose, personally, I would go for the 61T just because it's more genre versatile. I used the Q15 to do all of this listening. I will say that if I used an ESS based deck or dongle, which I did use, I used my M15, that did kind of help out the PDM7 in opening it up a little bit more. It did, I'm not going to deny it, but I still feel that even with the M15 helping out slightly the PDM7 and not making it sound so V-shaped, I still preferred the overall the sound of the 61T. Just one last thing I want to touch upon, which is the technical aspects of one or the other. Technically here, yes, the fact that it's slightly recessed in the mids does bring some negatives, which is the soundstage could be a little bit bigger, but it sounds a little bit more. It just sounds closed in. It doesn't sound as big as it could be. Imaging is not too bad. Imaging is actually not too bad. Micro and macro details are not too bad, but again, when you take into account the price, I was expecting a little bit more. And the timbre and tonality, which is the one aspect which I usually pay much attention to, or the most attention to, it just, with the M15, it was okay. But with the Q15, it just doesn't sound ideal, because it just emphasizes perhaps a little bit more that disparity between the lower and the higher frequencies. As for the 61T, great soundstage, great imaging. I mean, that's the reality. Both of them are very good. Micro details could have been slightly better, but non-offensive nevertheless. Resolution really good, but timbre and tonality definitely were the ones that stood out. And call it maybe brain burn, call it whatever you want to listen to. After listening to the PDM7 for 30 minutes or 40 minutes straight, yes, it's a fun sound, like if you listen to EDM and pop, yeah, okay, it's fine, that's great. But on here, it's easier to sustain that listening experience, because it's just so versatile across so many genres of music that you just, okay, let me listen to this thing now to see how that sounds. Oh, okay, wow, that sounds good. So it's that added versatility, be it Holding On from Gregory Porter, or be it The Sea from Haven, or be it the Mexican Margarita from Jacob Gurevich, or take it to Steve Oliver's Long Road, or then go to something like Pete Velasco's Deeper. It just sounds always very nice. It sounds very much hi-fi, okay? And that's that. Guys, show you another graphs and we'll wrap it up.